I really love Luke Jackson, about 6'9". The guy could jump out the gym, great build on his body, played great defense.
We had the ultimate in a power forward in Luke Jackson. I mean, the ultimate. This was a guy who was as big and strong as anybody in the world, with a touch as soft as you can possibly have.
Luke Jackson was a solid 6'9", weighing 240 pounds. He was strong enough to operate down low, but athletic enough to snatch down a rebound or meet a shooter at the peak of his shot to block it. But his game was a little different from the bigs of his era, as he could actually take his man off the dribble and finish with a powerful dunk, or throw a dump off to a cutter for an easy layup. He also had an underrated jump shot, as he could consistently knock down a 15-footer. After solid performances at the Olympics and the Pan American Games, he was drafted 4th overall by the Sixers in 1964. His career was starting off on the right track, finishing as an all-star and the runner-up for Rookie of the Year. But the arrival of Wilt Chamberlain meant that Luke's role in the offense was reduced dramatically. He felt a way about it initially, but he eventually accepted his role and helped Philly have one of the best seasons in NBA history, finishing it with a title in 1967. Once Wilt left Philly, Luke welcomed the increased responsibilities and was on track to have a career season, but injuries would derail his progress, as he never got to show the full extent of his abilities. Welcome to PZ Hoops, and let's get down to it. Lucious Jackson was born on Halloween 1941 in San Marcos, Texas. His family moved to Bastrop, Louisiana because his hometown high school didn't allow black players on the basketball team. He went to Morehouse High, and from there to Texas Southern, where he averaged 17 points and 17 rebounds. He then transferred to Pan American, now known as UT Rio Grande Valley. Over his next 3 years, he was an All-American in 1963 and a 2-time NAIA Tournament MVP. His success earned him a spot on Team USA for the 1963 Pan American Games, in which they would win gold. Luke was also on the 1964 Olympic team that won gold in Tokyo. His international play gave him a much greater platform to display his talents, and he was selected 4th overall by the Sixers in 1964. Philly was a team on the rise, and now they had a solid player at basically every position except the center. Red Kerr and Connie Deerking were solid options, but they wouldn't be able to compete with the top bigs in the league. Luke had a double-double in his NBA debut, as well as his first 20-20 game on November 14th against Boston. He was still raw offensively, but he was producing, averaging 16 points and 16 rebounds in December. On January 15th, the Sixers addressed their issues at center by pulling off a trade for Wilt Chamberlain. Now with his arrival, Luke's role in the offense was reduced, and his production dipped a little. But his hot start to the season had earned him an all-star appearance, and he was 8th in rebounds and 17th in defensive win shares. The addition of Wilt didn't immediately change the Sixers' fortunes, but 40-40 was enough for a playoff spot. Luke was second behind Willis Reed for Rookie of the Year, averaging 15 points and 13 rebounds. The Sixers faced the Royals in the semifinals, as Luke dropped 2 double-doubles, including 16 points, 10 rebounds, and 5 assists in the closeout Game 4. The Celtics were still in the middle of their stranglehold over the league, so the division finals would be really tough. Luke really couldn't find his shot at all, but he did have 23 points, 11 rebounds, and 5 assists in Game 6 to force a Game 7 on the road. Philly had a chance to win this game with seconds to go, but John Havlicek stole the inbounds pass, sealing the win and sending Philly packing. The Sixers drafted Billy Cunningham and traded for Wally Jones in 1965. Luke's offensive role was even more limited, as he was more of an enforcer now, impacting the game with his defense and rebounding. He still played well when he got the opportunity, dropping 12 points, 20 rebounds, and 6 assists against the Lakers, and 23 points, 19 rebounds, and 3 assists against the Hawks. Luke's numbers were down across the board, but he still excelled in his role, dropping 19 double-doubles. His court vision was a pleasant surprise, dishing at least 5 assists in 7 games. Wilt won the MVP, while Billy was a great rookie, and Philly finished 55-25. Luke averaged 8 points, 8.5 rebounds, and 2 assists, as the Sixers met the Celtics again in the semifinals. He was decent in this series, but Wilt's lackadaisical attitude really hurt team chemistry, as Boston beat them in 5 games. New coach Alex Hannum was hired in 1966, and he convinced Wilt to change his playstyle, focusing less on scoring and more on setting his teammates up, and Luke would benefit from this. He had 28-13 against Boston, 27-12 against St. Louis, in a 3-game stretch in March, averaging 21 points, 14 rebounds, and 3 assists on 58% shooting. The Sixers were unstoppable this year, winning 46 of their first 50 games. Billy was an excellent reserve, averaging 19 off the bench, while Wilt won the MVP, and Philly finished 68-13. Luke averaged 12 points, 9 rebounds, and 1.5 assists as Philly faced Cincinnati in the semifinals. He dropped 15-13 in Game 1 and 16-10 in the closeout Game 4. It was only a matter of time before they met Boston, but contrary to the norm, they dominated the Celtics. Luke went off in Game 4 with 29 points and 18 rebounds on 12 of 21 shooting, as the Sixers won the series in a gentleman's sweep, ending the Celtics' historic 8-year title streak. The finals brought the Warriors, and while Luke had his efficiency issues, he was great on the boards, coming up clutch in the closeout Game 6 with 13 points and 21 rebounds, helping Philly cap off their magical season with a championship. Wilt was even more of a playmaker in 1967, and Philly was looking like they would repeat. Luke was starting this season a lot better, averaging 15 points and 11 rebounds on 47% shooting in November, including a career-high 30 points and 10 rebounds on the 28th against the Knicks. He had 31 double-doubles this year, and he was a wall in the paint, ranking 7th in defensive win shares. Wilt won another MVP, while Billy was still giving starter production off the bench. They had the highest scoring offense for the second year in a row, and while they weren't as dominant as they were last season, 62-20 was still elite. Luke averaged 12 points, 10.5 rebounds, and 2 assists, as Philly faced the Knicks in the semifinals. He put up his usual numbers, and the Sixers won this series in 6 games. They faced that green and white team again in the division finals, as Luke dropped 22 points and 6 rebounds in Game 4 to take a 3-1 series lead. But after this, Philly would choke away the series, letting Boston come back and eliminate them on their home floor in Game 7. Wilt left for the Lakers in the offseason, but he would compliment Luke in the media, calling him the strongest teammate he ever had. Wilt's departure also meant that Billy was finally given the reins to the offense, and Luke was moving back up to the center position, so he was in line to get a lot more plays run for him. He was putting up similar numbers to his rookie season in the beginning, but on December 11th against Phoenix, Luke went down with a torn Achilles and the season was done. If it could possibly get any worse, he was also dealing with a collapsed lung on top of this. Darryl Imhoff filled in for him, while Billy made the All-NBA first team in his first year as a full-time starter. The Sixers finished 55-27 before losing to Boston in the semifinals. Luke was actually headed to the ABA, signing a deal with the Cougars in the offseason, but 3 days later, he reneged on this agreement, returning to Philly. Luke still wasn't 100% heading into 1969, so Philly signed Jim Washington for frontcourt depth. He started this season as a reserve, but he was now dealing with chronic pain in his left foot, keeping him out for 2 months. Once he returned in February, he was brought along slowly, dropping a season-high 20 points and 14 rebounds on March 18th against Baltimore. With him being hurt most of the year, Philly's defense suffered tremendously, as their 42-40 record was just enough to get into the playoffs. In his shortened season, Luke averaged 6 points, 5.5 rebounds, and 1.5 assists, as Philly faced the Bucks in the semifinals. Luke had a very small role in this series, as Milwaukee easily won in 5 games. Luke was only 29 years old in 1970, but his injury stole a lot of the athleticism and power that made him so special. He was now splitting center duties with a rookie Dennis Autry, as the Sixers also signed veterans Connie Deerking and Bailey Howell. Even though his body was breaking down, he still had some great games, dropping 24 points, 13 rebounds, and 5 assists against Seattle, and 26 points, 15 rebounds, and a career-high 8 assists against Atlanta. But he only had 7 double-doubles, and he also had the most inefficient season of his career. Billy and Archie Clark were the best players on this team, leading Philly to a 47-35 record. Luke averaged 7 points, 7 rebounds, and 2 assists, as Philly faced Baltimore in the semifinals. He even got the starting nod in the first 3 games, but he was barely shooting the ball. He did have double-digit rebounds 3 times, but the Bullets got past him in Game 7. The Sixers brought in Bill Bridges and Bob Rule as their new frontcourt, as Luke continued to deal with foot problems. He flirted with a triple-double on October 30th though, dropping 10 points, 12 rebounds, and 7 assists. But around mid-November, his foot kept bothering him, and he failed to record another double-double. Philly was moving around a lot of pieces, as their 30-52 record meant no playoffs for the first time in franchise history. Luke averaged 6 points, 5 rebounds, and 1.5 assists. Luke would retire at only 30 years old, as his chronic injuries kept him from being an effective player. After the NBA, Luke finished his degree and worked for the Beaumont Parks and Rec department until 2002. He had 3 children who all went on to play college basketball. Luke would pass away on October 12, 2022 at 80 years old due to heart failure. Luke Jackson had a lot of hype coming into the league, and it was well deserved. He was strong as an ox, but he could run the floor like a much smaller player. He wasn't the most polished offensively, but he knew how to get to his spots. He really shined as a rebounder and defender, holding down the paint for Philly. It could be argued that the arrival of Wilt stifled his production, but Luke would also learn how to play off the ball, as he was an important piece to one of the best teams of all time. Once Wilt left, he was finally getting back to his all-star form, but his body kept breaking down, and he was never the same again. One can only imagine that a fully healthy Luke would have been an anchor for them deep into the 70s, but he was still able to accomplish a lot in his brief NBA career. Thank you guys, I really appreciate y'all for supporting. I got a comment 3 or 4 months ago asking for Luke Jackson. He's almost like a Ben Wallace type of player. You know, he's not the best offensively, but he was a great rebounder, he's a great defender, he ran the floor well. He can still shoot the ball though. Don't get it wrong, he can still shoot. He still had the jumper, he still can take people off the dribble, he still could pass pretty well for a big, so his game was pretty good. He had a lot of game. He definitely did, but playing around somebody like Wilt, you know he's going to take all the shots, so you kind of had to be forced into a role. I really wonder what would have happened if Wilt had never came, and it would have just been him having to develop on his own there. You know what I mean? The injuries, man. The injuries, I mean, it's a part of sports, but it's still sad because Luke was a great player. You know, definitely was a great role player. Like, he learned to play a role. Like, that takes a lot of humility. You're coming off an all-star appearance, second in Rookie of the Year, and now you have to adjust your game entirely. Now you have to almost take yourself completely out of the offense because Wilt's here. But shout out to Luke Jackson, man. RIP to you. Thank you for watching. I really appreciate y'all for the support. Leave a like if you enjoyed. Hit that subscribe button if you're new to my channel. Turn my post notifications on. Be safe. Stay on the grind. I'm out. Peace.